coming. Maybe you were getting it out of the wind, I don't know, but thanks for coming anyhow. The program today is, I think, a very different one, a very special one. But before I talk about that, let me mention something else. I think one of the things that we feel as a society that we should be doing, not only for ourselves and for you, but for future generations, is to begin to put photographs in some kind of archival form where they're going to last. Not just photographs, other things too, but anything that can be photographed in some kind of archival form. But I think you all know, when I say that, you're thinking, yeah, I can't even find my car keys, or, you know, or my underwear, whatever. I've been looking into this to try to find some kind of program where we can find photographs and documents that have been archived, using things such as keywords, using things like captions. If someone knows who that guy is in the picture and where he is and what he's doing, we'd like to put a caption there. We might, at some point later, somebody may want to find that picture based on some information in the caption. Names, of course, dates, places, where are we talking about? One of the things that struck me a number of years ago, in a meeting of the Historical Society, somebody put up on the wall, might have been you, Bill, I don't know, a picture of a very old fire engine with 4 guys sitting in the fire engine. And somebody said, "Hey, Charlie, who are those people?" Well, this fire engine, I think, dates from the late 1920s. He went up to the wall and he named each one of those 4 men without any hesitation whatsoever. But he's gone. We can't have him do that. We have other things to worry about, things like recording media. What kinds of recording media are likely to last and for how long, and when does somebody have to record these things? Well, what I've been doing, looking into this, is looking at a program called Lightroom. And it really is like Darkroom, except it tells you what to do if you're working in the light, organizing things, saving things, archiving things. And it turns out that this program is wonderful in a way, but there are 2 big manuals that I'm going through right now. One is 450 pages, the other is 400. Just to find out, of all the stuff this thing can do, what will we want to do realistically? And so I think we're going to be taking a look at that as time goes on. We also I keep trying to figure out what's the best thing to do with discs that we make from meetings. And maybe after the meeting, you may want to take a look at this. This is like 1 year of discs. If you look at these things, and we've got kind of a reference card here, and if you look in front of the reference card, that's where the particular disc is. It goes with that title and date. You can take a look. We can sell you one of these. And here's the best part. If you find something we only have 1 disc of, we have a machine over there which we just acquired, and it will make a disc from a disc in about 6 minutes. It works. I tried it out. So if you decide you want something, there's only 1 disc here, we can do that for you right now, today, before you leave. What are we selling them for? 5? Okay. Okay, some interesting meetings coming up. Let me just mention a few of them. And one day, May 6th, we get back to our regular Monday night, 7 p.m. meetings. And we have Jason Emerson coming. You may have seen that movie on Lincoln. There's kind of like a big Lincoln interest these days. Jason Emerson is going to talk about Lincoln's son, Robert Todd Lincoln, who in his own right did a number of remarkable things. So you want to come and hear about that. There could be a book involved. Do we know that?
Yes.
There is a book. Okay.
Yes.
Did I have to ask that question? Okay.
What was that date?
This is Monday, May 6th, 7 p.m. And as most of you know, I guess, normally, except in the winter months, our meetings are the first Monday of the month, 7 p.m. right here. June 3rd, role of women in the military. Here's something that is, I think, not too often talked about, and yet it's in military, it plays a very important role. Even going back to World War II, we had waves, we had WACs. We had women who maybe were not military, but they were flying huge airplanes across the country in order to put them in the right place to fight the war. We may not have anybody quite that old to talk about World War II, but we do have our own Rini Cather coming, who's going to tell us about her experience, which I believe was the Korean War. Is that right? Also Elaine Smith Tucker will be here to talk about things, women in the military. Then, for you guys who like music, and maybe not exactly really recent music, but good music, July 1st, Monday, 7 p.m. You remember last year we had Steve Jones come and his pianist, Marina Correlea. Both of them are just great talents. And they are going to do a program on American music. And they're going to include such composers as George Gershwin, Jerome Kern, Johnny Mercer, Cole Porter, and some more guys. So if you can, don't miss that. July 1st, yeah, that's got to be in the church, right? Yeah, because they're perfectionists. They want good pianos, and we found out that is not the best piano in the land over there. It is an antique, if you maybe you can evaluate it. And today, our speaker is Danna Devaul, and she's going to talk to us about collections, collectibles, and so forth. Yes?
Yeah. I just want to tell you, Poppy Church, Immaculate Conception, has the organ there. And it's never used, but it's perfect condition.
Really?
So, yes. We wish we could find somebody to play.
I appreciate knowing that. That's very good information. Yeah, because we do have some musicians that are friends of ours and perform for us and so forth. I'm glad to know that. You may have a tough job. I know some of us like to watch Antiques Roadshow, and we see that somebody spent $3 at the yard sale for something, and it turns out to be worth $20,000 or $30,000. And you may get the impression that that's the way the world operates. But if you do watch that show and you stay with it till the end, you see the feedback booth. And they say, yeah, I bought this, I thought this would be worth a lot of money, and it's only worth $10, but we had a good time here today. All of you, I'm sure, have some contact with antiques. And I don't just mean your spouse, I mean antique objects that are worth something. And so it's all yours.
Okay. Thank everyone for coming this afternoon. My name is Danna Devaul, and I'm an antique dealer and I'm an appraiser for Bond Shop and King Law Firm in Syracuse. And I've been appraising estates and liquidated estates for them for the past 20 years. Also, I have down near Utica, the Westmoreland Antique Center. It's a dealer co-op of over 50 dealers, and I have two spots down in that area. And also I teach the same class at Auburn Community, Kaywood Community College in Auburn, and I teach a vintage costume jewelry class in a high buy and sell eBay. Well, this afternoon I'd kind of like to take you through different parts of antiques. I'm going to start with furniture, and I'll be talking about glass and china, pottery, early American toys, early American silver. First of all, everybody has a different definition of the word antique. An antique, a true antique, is an object that is handmade or partially handmade. Be very aware of a true antique. It is done in good taste, design, and construction. Hand workmanship and quality is the #1 key factor in a true antique. This applies to any category of furniture, glass, pottery, silver, pewter, and paintings. Now collectibles, true collectibles, are all things that are made by a machine. That is a true collectible. And by the 1830s became the turning point of antiques. Before, a true antique was handmade. In the 1830s, items started to be mass-produced in factories. Quality, again, hand craftsmanship was sacrificed. By the 1920s, the antique dealers in America began revolting against the duty on antiques they imported from Europe, particularly England. So after this controversy of paying all this duty fee, by 1930, a bill was passed by the government stating that anything made before 1830 would be admitted duty-free as an antique. This wasn't in effect until 1966. That's when the whole terminology changed. In 1966, a new bill was introduced using 100 years of age as a determining factor of an antique. And I think that's the conception everyone has now. Antique has to be 100 years old. Therefore, an antique is anything that's 100 years or older. This rule is still in effect and used today, whether or not duty shall be collected when a piece is imported. I have a lot of Canadian dealers come down and buy in New York State, and on their receipt I have to sign either the item is over 50 years old or over 100 years old, because it's over 100 years old, it's like duty free, they don't have to pay that when they go back to Canada. But again, a true antique is something that is handmade. And collecting antiques and collectibles, I highly recommend good documentation of that piece if it's all possible. And I recommend like talking to dealers or collectors in the field, go to museums, read books, and do your homework. The first category I'd like to talk about today is the Pilgrim period. This is from 1620 to 1670. Furniture was very crude and functional. And you see this early slab-back chair with a rounded carvings and the flat button feet on it. After the Pilgrim period was the Jacobean period. This was from 1670 to 1694. Furniture was very rectangular and close to the floor. You had a lot of heavily carved oak furniture, head together, and also some carved roses. The bud or ball foot was very popular in the Jacobean period. The Pilgrim and Jacobean period pretty much follow one another. The next period from 1694 to 1710 was the William and Mary period. In this period of furniture, a lot of marquetry inlay was used, was well-grained veneers. Legs had more turnings on them, particularly you see in the chairs, and the wood most commonly used was walnut. And also the different categories of furniture. I'd like to point out that the leg design of the furniture, particularly the legs of the William and Mary style, identify that particular style of furniture. The next period, the Queen Anne period, was from 1710 to 1750. Again, look at the leg of the chair. That is particularly the Queen Anne style. They also had carved fans, shells, a lot of fancy finials were added to furniture. The caribou leg with a pad foot was very characteristic of the Queen Anne. Also on cabinets, drawers had widely spaced dovetail joints on the sides, and the bottom drawers of a piece of furniture was usually one solid board. During the Queen Anne period, a lot of the woods used were maples, mahogany, cherry, birch, walnut, and this was the era when drop-leaf tables became very popular. The next period was the Chippendale period, and you've seen probably a lot of reproductions of this particular style. The designer of this particular period of furniture, his name was Thomas Chippendale. This is from 1750 to 1775. Furniture had a lot more carvings. It was characteristic with the ball and claw on the feet of the chairs. They did a lot of carvings of leaves, fruit, flowers, fans, lion heads, and also besides the ball and claw style, there was the reeded square fluted leg style in the Chippendale chairs. And also this was an era when ladder-back chairs became very popular. And Thomas Chippendale, his favorite wood was mahogany, and he also used walnut, maple, and cherry. And there's a lot of reproductions in the Depression furniture of this early Chippendale style. The next period of furniture is the Hepplewhite period. This is from 1775 to 1800, and George Heppelwhite was the designer of this particular style of furniture. He used a lot of inlays on his furniture, and he did a lot of mahogany veneer with birch or maple. As mahogany wood started to become harder to come by, they took whether pine or maple and did a lot of veneers over it. His characteristic legs was square, tapered, straight legs on his chairs. Shield-back chairs also became very popular. You can see there's one particular style that George Heppelwhite designed. Again, you see a lot of Depression furniture, reproduction copies of it. Again, this earlier furniture is all handmade, so these earlier styles was a true antique. The next period is the Sheridan period. This is from 1800 to 1830. Furniture became more geometric and more square. There was a lot of rectangular back chairs. The legs were reeded and had very simple turnings on them. Again, the woods most used was mahogany, veneer birch or maple, and mahogany stain was also applied to the birch. Thomas Sheridan was the well-known designer for this particular style of furniture. Also, the next period, the Empire period, which also coordinates with the Duncan V style. The Empire period was from 1810 to 1840. It was a heavy, stiff, formal furniture. Carved leaf and fruit was very popular carvings. Also, they used pawed animal feet, which was made out of brass, which was popular with the Duncan V style. Duncan V was a designer who came from Scotland, and he settled in Albany, New York, and then went to New York City. And he designed furniture from 1805 to 1915. His layer back design that you see in this one chair here was very, very popular during this particular time. He harmonized a lot of the curves of furniture together, needed carvings of wheat, eagle wings, lion's foot, acorns, oak leaves, and lot of medallions. Again, you see a lot of reproduction of this during the Depression furniture, which was all machine made. The next period of furniture was the Victorian period, which is also the popular Eastlake style. This was from 1840s to 1890s. It was heavy, massive, very ornate furniture. It also was carved with grapes, flowers, swags, and also the return of the Queen Anne cable leg and the Baum claw leg you tend to see in Victorian furniture. Most Victorian furniture was mahogany, walnut, and rosewood. They did a lot less veneering than they did in the earlier piece of furniture. This is also the area of the white marble top stands that you see quite frequently, and also spool turned beds that you see a lot was also during the Victorian era. And this was also the era of cottage furniture, was pine furniture painted with a floral design on it, and this became very, very popular around the turn of the century. Also during the Victorian period, in 1868, Charles Eastlake published a book on hints on household taste, and he departed from the heavy Victorian look and created his own style. Like his book was like the gospel that all the ladies used for their interior home designs. And here's another style of Eastlake furniture that he made. And here's again is the heavy carved Victorian furniture. If you look at early photographs, you see a lot of photographers use particular chairs for their clients to sit in, so to speak. And here's a part of the Eastlake furniture. The painted bedroom sets were very florid decorated. The next particular style is mission furniture, and this is probably from 1890 to 1910. The furniture had very straight lines. Its roots began from the Spanish missions. And again, the mission oak was from the oak furniture that they used. Gustav Stickley was very popular at this particular time. From 1901 through 1913, he wrote catalogs called The Craftsman, which enabled him to sell his furniture at the Craftsman building in Syracuse. His craftsman's workshops were located in Eastwood, New York. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with that. Now, Gustav had two brothers, Leopold and J. George. And his two brothers were very shrewd businessmen. They went into the business a few years after Gustav. They copied all his furniture designs, used them, and poor Gustav ended up bankrupt when he died because his brothers just had shrewd marketing skills, took advantage of his early designs, and left the poor man penniless, which is kind of a sad story. And here are some pictures from the original Stickley catalog. In fact, at home I do have a couple copies of the original Stickley catalog. You see the different, and this was manufactured in Fayetteville, New York. That's where Leopold and George set up their business to compete against their brother. And on Stickley furniture, there is a paper label, and you will see these two paper labels at the bottom of a piece of authentic Stickley furniture. Okay, after the Mission style furniture, we had Art Nouveau, Art Deco, and Depression furniture. The Art Nouveau furniture was from 1895 through 1920. It was a name given to different decorative styles. The wood craftsmanship, a lot of the craftsmanship was a lot of brass and copper, very fancy, ornate inlays on a lot of the pieces of furniture, which is marquetry they referred to as the arts and crafts movement. The Art Deco period from 1920 through 1940 evolved out of the Art Nouveau period. Again, it was a lot of elaborate decoration with a lot of inlays of brass and copper. And then in Depression furniture from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, almost all your furniture became machine made. So your truly antiques, so like phased out, was all machine made furniture. Sears, Montgomery Ward, Baker Furniture, Kittinger, all mass produced. Many different kinds of woods were used in the same pieces of furniture. It was hard to identify the furniture that was made during the Depression time. A lot of manufacturers would bleach and stain and dye the hardwoods to make it look like mahogany, because again, mahogany was the preferred wood that all the ladies wanted to decorate their home with. And here are some pictures of Depression furniture. And again, some more Depression furniture. It was just cheaply machine-made furniture, not a true antique. Okay, the next category I would like to talk about is antique glass. And the first category is pressed glass. Pressed glass came in prominence around 1827. It was made in Sandwich, Massachusetts, and it was the beginnings of the Boston Sandwich Glass Company. Many pressed patterns were made, and most popular were daisy button, bullseye, cable diamond, thumbprint, honeydew, panel grape. And here I have some pictures of early pressed glass with the daisy and button shoe, the daisy and button slipper, the daisy and button wheelbarrow, and the daisy and button with the crossbars. And some more pressed glass. We have a diamond block vase, a diamond bridges pitcher, a diamond cup leaf, a diamond point band mug, a diamond point vase, and a diamond pitcher. A lot of say the early pieces were made by the Boston Sandwich Glass Company, but other companies did make early pressed glass. The next category of glass is Tiffany, which is art glass. Art Nouveau glass was from 1894 to 1935, and iridescent glass was made in shades of gold, green, and blue. Louis Comfort Tiffany had his decorating studio in New York City, and his company was called Louis C. Tiffany and Company. He made a lot of blown vases, bowls with peacock feathers, and also bowls with vines, flowers, and different abstracts. He called it Fabius, meaning handmade, and he always signed his works Tiffany, LCT Fabius, or LC Tiffany. Around the turn of the century, in 1900, he started producing his leaded lampshades, which a lot of people are a little bit more familiar with. Okay, here we have some pictures of the opalescent star vases that you see a lot of these Tiffany pieces, and there's a lot of gold iridescence and a green leaf vine that he used. And here we have the well-known Tiffany lamps. One of them is a black-eyed Susan lamp, and the other is a Conley lamp. They both have bronze vases, and they were made around 1906. And these these lamps pretty much vary between the first one around $30,000 and the second one about $110,000. Again, it pertained to a particular design, that particular lamp style that typically made. Very hard to come by. Okay, the next designer was Victor Duran from New Jersey, and he did a lot of designs in a hardbine, a peacock feather. He signed all his works Duran, which was a D in a V that were the bottom of his works. And here we have a iridescent compote in blue and gold, a ginger jar with blue luster and a heart and vine design, a trumpet vase with blue luster and gold luster, and another vase in golden luster. And these pieces are again up to like $2,000 to $3,000 a piece. Okay, also I wanted to point out that Steuben glass down in Corning, New York, from 1903 to 1932, they did a lot of art glass, colorine glass. They did it in shades of blue, gold, red, green, and yellow with metallic iridescence. It wasn't until 1932 that Steuben made their crystal art glass. Before that, they made that very metallicized, fine, like a satin type glass. Okay, the next category was art glass. It was made from 1880 through 1910. The first category is satin glass, which is an opaque glass with a velvety finish on it. And the first couple pictures we see here, there's a diamond quilted piece, another one with apricot mother of pearl with applied beaded handles on both pieces. We have a basket with a ruffled mother of pearl in shades of blue to white, and we have a base diamond quilted toward the bottom with applied handles. And a basket has a spiderweb design with a mother of pearl on it also, and applied ribbon edge. Again, this art glass was made from 1880 to 1910. We have coralline glass, which was glass decorated with an enamel paint and tiny glass beads were applied. And here we have a coralline molded base with a blue satin, a flower base with seaweed, a pitcher with a reeded handle. There's a lot of applied gold on these bases. The next category is Crown Milano, which is a pale satin-colored glass decorated with flowers and a gold trim. We have a pitcher with a twisted handle with gold spider mums and leaves. We have lidded jars with pansies toward the bottom and a lot of applied gold on these pieces. They're just absolutely beautiful pieces. Okay, the next category is Burmese glass. This is an opaque shaded glass of two tones, pink to yellow. And we have the typical hobnail pattern of sugar and creamer and the diamond quilted lemonade glass at the bottom. The next glass is Amberina glass. Again, this is made between 1880 and 1910. It's a two-colored glass, red at top and amber at the bottom. We have an inverted thumbprint water pitcher, an inverted thumbprint miniature pitcher, and at the bottom we have a pressed daisy and button canoe shape item. The next glass is my favorite glass. It's called Mary Gregory glass. This was a lady, she worked at the Boston Sandwich Glass Company, and she painted white enamel figures of children on all her pieces. And it comes in different colored glass. I've seen it in blue, a cobalt blue, I've seen it in red, I've seen it in green. She was quite a well-known artist, and consequently her glass was named after her, Mary Gregory. Okay, the next category, getting closer to the Victorian period, which was cut glass. And the cut glass, Victorian period, had three different eras. We had the early period of cut glass from 1771 to 1830. We had a middle period from 1830 to 1880, and the brilliant from 1880 to 1905. During the turn of the century, that was when the most brilliant cut glass pieces were made. And as we all know, cut glass is kind of heavy, has sharp edges, can compared to pressed glass, which has like soft edges on it. And if you flick a piece of cut glass, what does it do? It just rings. As you do pressed glass, there's more of a thud sound to it. Cut glass had a lot of different patterns and motifs. There was hopstar, pinwheel, fan block, crosshatch, strawberry diamond, and different patterns they had called chrysanthemum, architrave bottom, Corinthian, princess. And a lot of the cut glass makers were well known was Hawks, Libby, and Sinclair. And in Canastota, the Ideal Cut Glass Company had their pattern, and this was Canastota Cut Glass, very collectible. And the Ideal Cut Glass Company in Canastota was formed by William Hitchcock on October 15, 1905. The cut glass market values have strongly decreased, gone down, except for the diamond point setup made of Canastota glass. Those prices just keep going up and up. So if you have any of those pieces, you've got some good rare pieces. The next category of glass is carnival glass. This was made from 1900 through 1920. And carnival glass, as the name implies, was given away at carnivals. It was also given away in cereal and tea boxes. A lot of the colors of carnival glass was purple, blue, green, marigold red. A lot of different designs of carnival glass. There was grapes, tiger lily, sunflower, daisies, hearts and stars. Many makers of carnival glass was mass-produced. It was by Imperial Glass Company, Millersburg Glass Company, Northwood, and Northwood was very popular among collectors. It's a circle with a letter N in the middle of it. And also Fenton Art Glass Company made some early pieces of carnival before they went into other hand-painted Fenton glass. Okay, at the very top of the carnival glass, we have a grape pitcher, and then we have a grape and cable bowl, and then another grape and cable bowl at the bottom, which was signed Northwood. A lot of the colors were marigold, amethyst, green, cobalt blue, ice green, aqua opalescent, aqua teal, and lavender. Now the next glass everyone's very well familiar with is depression glass. And again, that was made between the 1930s and the 40s. It was inexpensive, machine-made dinnerware, mass-produced. There's tons of it out. And a lot of people got it through the mail. A lot of the colors were green, yellow, pink, blue, red, and crystal clear. But there's one color of depression glass called ice blue. Very hard to come by, and that's the only particular depression glass that is worth quite a bit of money. There's many different patterns for depression glass. American Sweetheart, Cameo, Cherry Blossom, Mayfair, Princess, and Madrid. A lot of the makers were Jeanette Glass Company, Indiana Glass Company, Hazel Atlas, Anchor Hockey, and Federal Glass. And there's some more pictures of depression glass in between. Okay, next category I'd like to talk about is American pottery. Early American pottery, called earthenware, clay, or stoneware, was made from the 1820s through 1910. In this particular area, there's a lot of it around. There was a lot of stoneware pottery plants. Crocks and jugs with stoneware, this particular time used for storage, salting, and pickling of food. It was hard, non-porous pottery. It was fired and glazed with a common salt. That's why they call it salt glazing. And it was decorated with a cobalt blue paint. They made pitchers, bowls, butter churns, batter jugs. A lot of floral designs were used along with birds, animals, and farmhouses. Locally around here, we had Whites of Utica. We had W.H. Farrar Gaddis, which is the western end of Syracuse. We had J. Berger from Rochester. So this particular area of the country, you find a lot of decorated stoneware. Okay, the next period was from 1840s, 1890s, Bennington pottery. This was made in Bennington, Vermont. It was a brown and yellow marbleized glazed pottery. They used a lot of animal and bird figurines, pictures of people on their teapots, and quite a variety of different things. Again, it was made a lot in Vermont. If you go up to Vermont areas, you tend to find a lot of Bennington or Rockingham pottery around. They gave it two different names. Why? I really don't know, but that's what it was called. Okay, the next pottery was redware. It was just made from the red clay, and when it was fired, it just turned to a reddish color. The next pottery was Rookwood Pottery Company out of Cincinnati, Ohio. was established in 1879. Airbrushing was used on pottery to create some more artistic look, and rookwood pottery is very collectible. And the bottom of it is marked with an RP, but the R is backwards. Another form of pottery is called Majolica. This again is heavy earthenware with vivid colors. There's American Majolica and there's British Majolica. I'm just going to be talking about American Majolica. It was a colorful metallic glaze lined with a pinkish coating on the inside. A lot of designs were molds of fruit, flowers, different leaves. It was very, very popular during the Victorian era. The next pottery is called Weller pottery. It was made in Zanesville, Ohio in 1882. It was hand-decorated matte glaze pottery with a lot of raised designs on it. Again, it was hand-painted like a lot of fenton glass later became made. And again, it was marked Weller at the bottom of the pottery name. The next pottery is Roseville. I'm sure there's a lot of people seen that. There's a lot of reproductions out on Roseville, so you have to be very careful on that. The Roseville Pottery Company was in Roseville, Ohio. It was established in 1892. Again, it was hand-decorated glazed pottery. There was a lot of different designs as wisteria, sunflower, pine cone, apple blossom, dogwood, magnolia, peony, and water lily. And the Roseville pottery we had, the first line is white rose, the second is moss line, and the third row is dull rose. Very collectible. Prices used to be very high on Roseville, but then when they started to come out with reproductions from China, it really dropped the prices way down, which was too bad. The next pattern is Fiesta. And Fiesta, the only reason I brought this particular one up, the Fiesta pottery is very, very common. It was made out in California. And the only color that has any value to it is called medium green, which what you see here. But it comes in red, yellow, and a lot of it, back then, was lead paint, and people were eating off of lead paint. And so, but now you have good reproductions of it. And again, that killed the market of original Fiesta too. About 20 years ago, Fiesta was bringing high prices, but now with all the reproductions out there, there's like lost its interest, except for the medium green, which is still very collectible. Okay, also by the 1900s, I'm sure a lot of you also heard of the Lennox Company. That was founded by Jonathan Cohen and Walter Scott Lennox. They produced fine dinnerware and became major producers of dinnerware in the 1930s. And I thought it was quite interesting that in 1917, President Wilson ordered 1,700-piece dinnerware service for the White House. So I'm sure it's still somewhere in the archives of the White House. And that was when Lennox really took off because there was presidential plates made back then. In 1903, the Larkin Soap Company established Buffalo pottery, and a lot of you are familiar with that with the blue willow pattern. If you look on the back, the plates, 9 times out of 10 around here, you can see Buffalo pottery on it. Other pottery companies in the States at the turn of the century was Colonial Pottery, Brooksville China, Dresden, Hall China Company, Homer Laughlin China Company, which made Fiesta, Limoges, Harper Pottery, and Edwin Cole's China Company. Different states had their own particular pottery companies. Minnesota had a Red Wing Potteries. Their design was famous for the magnolia. Tennessee had Southern Potteries and the Blue Ridge Dinnerware. Syracuse, New York had Syracuse China, and also Buffalo China. California had Bauer Pottery, Vernon Kilns, Matlock, Gladdy McLean, and they were known as the California Pottery Companies. In Ohio, you had Russell Wright and the Steubenville Pottery Company, and their design was American Modern Casual. These, a lot of these potteries toward the turn of the century after the Depression was very inexpensive potteries, all machine made, and they really don't have that much of a value as opposed to potteries that were hand decorated. Okay, just a quick note that Syracuse, China was established in 1841 by the W.H. Farrar Company, and they made their early Gaddis crocks and jugs. And of course, in 2009, production ended at the Syracuse plant. If you're interested in Syracuse China, there's a wonderful book put out by the Syracuse University Press in 1997 that authenticates Syracuse China documents. It's a very expensive book, but if you're into Syracuse China, I highly recommend that. Next kind of pottery is imported China. Most of it, this country imported from England. This was called white ironstone. It was made between 1815 and 1890. This was white china and had powdered iron slug that was added into it. It was pure white with a lot of raised leaves, a lot of patterns on white ironstone. It was wheat, flowers, fruit, geometric shapes. The big companies that made it was Food, Mason, Alcott, Maddox. And you turn over a piece of it, most likely you'll find those names. Another form of ironstone was called white ironstone with tea leaf. The tea leaf had a copper color on it, and it was just basically white ironstone pottery without copper tea leaf. Of course, with British being tea drinkers, it's quite obvious they would design this particular kind of china. The next china is called flow blue. This again was white ironstone. It had detailed oriental scenes on it and a deep cobalt blue. And during the firing process, they would allow the blue to run. That's why they would call it flow blue. Staffordshire potteries made a lot of flow blue pieces. Staffordshire Potteries was a district in England, and they took a lot of different pictures of the English landscape and also foreign lands and transferred it to China. These are called transfer printed patterns. A pattern was designed to fit a ceramic piece, then it was transferred to a copper plate, then it was applied to the ceramic piece, again using a special treated paper. It was rubbed on the plate to transfer the design. This was mass produced and it was called transfer ware. Again, it was originally made from copper plate, and then they did the paper design and transferred the image from the plate to the paper to the plate. The colors was blue, green, black, pink, brown, and mulberry. And then between 1820 and 1840, the British got very, very clever. I think it must be a result from the American Revolution, that artists from England now were sent to America to paint and sketch scenes of prominent buildings, landmarks, and landscapes. Then they went back to England and transferred the pieces on China, and then the potters shipped these historical pieces in great quantities back to the United States, and the blue was the most popular color, called historical blue. So they made a lot of money off of American housewives back then by sending them plates with pictures of American society on them. So it's a way for the British to make money off of us, the way I look at it. Okay, also, there are other potteries from England, Joshua Wedgwood, Joshua Spode, and Thomas Smith, that made quite a bit of pottery. And in England, there's also the names of Coalport, Copeland Spode, Davenport, Longport, Mitten, Royal Crown Derby, Royal Dalton, Royal Winchester, Staffordshire, Spode, Wedgwood. Some of these companies are still in existence today. Germany, some of the well-known names is Dresden, Meissen, Royal Rudolstadt, Royal Vienna, Royal Beirut, Artist Prussia. Holland made, I'm sure everyone knows that, Delft, okay? France made Havlin Limoges. Japan made Noritake, hand-painted Japan and occupied Japan. China was well known for Amari, Rose Medallion, Canton, and Chinese export. And from 1780s to 1800s, large quantities was shipped from China to Europe and America. Okay, next category I'm going to talk about is silver. American silversmiths, this is pretty much American silver that I'm discussing, is made in Boston, Philadelphia, and New York City. Most pieces were marked sterling, and sterling means this 925 parts silver, 75 parts metal alloy. Some items are marked coin silver, which means there's 900 parts silver to 100 parts base metal. And of course there's plated silver, which is electroplated ware, and lesser metals such as copper or brass, and it was dipped into silver, and if it was 3 dippings of silver, it would be called triple plate. If it was 4 dippings, it was called quadruple plate. here we have some pieces of silver plate. Also, early silver tend to follow furniture designs. The Queen Anne design had a lot of delicate style with curves. Silver tended to complement that Queen Anne style. Chippendale had a Rococo decoration. Hepplewhite had a straight line. And the Empire Victorian pieces were very machine-made, very fancy and ornate. And as I said earlier, furniture and silver and pottery tend to follow the same design periods at that particular time. The next category is pewter, which is 90% tin and 10% copper or other alloys. There were very simple styles of tankards, teapots, copper pots, candlesticks, lamps were made. Unfortunately, early pewter was melted down. Why was it melted down? It was melted down for bullets during the Revolutionary War, which was so sad because a lot of this pewter, with early American pewter, was all handmade, but again, it was melted down for the bullets. I find that very sad because it's hard to come across early pewter. Also, many brass items were made: candlesticks, door knockers, andirons, bed warmers, and even brass hardware. And I've seen brass hardware were going way back in the past. Antique dealers would buy a piece of furniture, and the brass hardware was worth more than the antique piece of furniture. So they would take the hardware off. I've seen it at auctions, and they leave the furniture but missing the hardware, and they sell the hardware for a lot more money. Just a little interesting trivia. Also, copper items were made as coffee pots, kettles, ladle strainers, and warming pans. All this was pretty functional. The next category I'd like to talk about is early dolls. Early American wood dolls were called penny woodens. They were peg-jointed wood dolls, and they're the average between 3 to 9 inches high. And in 1911, A. Schutzenhoff Company in Philadelphia began making spring-jointed dolls, and most of them were made out of basswood. And then after the wooden dolls, we had China head dolls. Most China head dolls were made in Germany. America was not producing China heads at this particular time. The China heads had China head, arms, and legs, and then they had a molded black or yellow hair and hand-painted facial features on them. After China heads, we had the bisque head dolls. Again, they were made in Germany between the 1890s and 1920s. It was an unglazed China head with hand-painted features on the face and blown glass size, and whereas the common maker was Armand Marseille, Kessler, and Simon & Novick. America began manufacturing dolls in 1921, and then it became in great demand because at this particular time, dolls were very, very expensive because they were imported from Germany. And then once they took off in America, it sort of like phased out importing them from Germany. The next category I'd like to talk about is early toy manufacturing. In the 1830s, toys became mass-produced. Earlier than that, they were all handmade. Between 1840 and 1900, tin toys were made, especially doll dishes, furniture, animals, boats, and trains. Between 1880 and 1912, we had cast iron toys. Again, they've been reproduced, which has destroyed the value of the original cast iron toys. Most toys at this time were pull type, trains, cars, trucks, farm equipment, fire engines, carriages, and circus wagons. A famous name maker was E.R. Ives of Connecticut. He made toys from cast iron toys between 1868 and 1932. His toys were in demand. In the 1870s, trains were made up as wind-up toys. After 1900, they became electric. Joshua Lionel Cohen made the first battery-operated Lionel train in 1903, and the first made electric Lionel train was in 1906. Trains are still very popular collectible. They still command a good dollar, but again, there's a lot of scrupulous dealers out there. They're honest with it. Some of them, they repaint it or they replace parts, which destroys the value of them. And some of them are really good at reproducing extra parts and pieces for trains, so beware when you're buying trains. From 1870 to 1910, mechanical and steel banks were made. And they were fairly brightly painted. And the mechanical banks, they would operate when you would put a penny into there. Okay, pretty much talked about antiques. my advice is about fakes and reproductions. Like I mentioned several times here, there's a lot out there. Do your homework, study, learn about that particular antique you would like to collect. In the ceramic area, new pieces show no signs of wear on them. Feel the surface of an antique piece for its age. An old bisque piece will be smooth to the touch. A newer bisque piece will be very, very rough. If you're buying an old Delft piece, it's all hand-painted decoration. A new piece has a transfer decoration and Delft. And lots of times, it's misspelled on the piece of pottery also. So if anything is misspelled, you know it's a reproduction. Transferware is widely reproduced. Old, it's fully glazed inside and out. A newer piece of transferware, you can find spots that's not completely glazed over. The old marks are rarely over an inch. The new marks are like 2 to 3 inches across on transferware. So buyer beware. Cookie jars, the most popular reproduced one is Little Red Riding Hood. The difference of cookie jars, just know the measurement of them. The height is the giveaway. The new is usually 1/2 inch to 1 inch shorter than the original. So when they reproduce them, for some reason they never made them the exact size. So there's a good way to tell if you're an old or new cookie jar. For glass, it's important to know the original mark and signatures of the old piece. Some marks in glass are acid etched or real etched, or they have a paper label in them. There's reproductions in Burmese, Tiffany, Mount Washington, the League, Steuben. Cut glass has been reproduced since the 1950s. There's a big difference between 1950s cut glass and early Victorian cut glass. Newer cut glass has mostly dagger-like pointed teeth, and there's air bubbles in it. So if you see a lot of air bubbles in glass, buyer beware. Depression glass that was reproduced in the 1970s. Again, know your patterns. There's certain patterns that have been mass reproduced, such as cherry blossom and poinsettia. Just study, do your homework. Pottery items tend to be smaller in size from an old piece of pottery. Usually there's a 1 inch difference in size when it comes to reproductions. And it's also reproductions are made in colors not original to the line that they originally made. As I said earlier, cast iron toys have been reproduced. The olders have smoother surfaces. The newer ones, there's a lot of raised bumps on them. And the old ones have sharp detail. New ones, the detail is not as sharp as it should be. There's been reproductions in Coca-Cola, Halloween, Civil War items. Again, there's buyers beware. And that concludes my program. And what I brought with me is different items that some of you looked at earlier. And I go through and identify some of these for you. Okay, and if everyone looked at this, do y'all know what it was? This was a Fenton Lavender satin glass vase made between 1977 and 78. It was made by the Fenton Art Glass Company. The original Fenton paper label dates it. The next item I have is a pink depression English cotton footed combo made by the Westmoreland Glass Company from 1920s through 1940s. The next item is a peak blow depression Deccan bread and butter plate made by the Cambridge Glass Company. The C in the triangle is the giveaway what the manufacturing was on this particular glass. This was made between 1930 and 1940. This is one of my favorite pieces. And if anybody looked at the back, this is a Syracuse China double-handled cake plate made by Onondaga Pottery, 1916, and the pattern was Roslyn on it. It's just a pretty piece of Syracuse China.
It was called Onondaga Pottery.
Originally it was called Onondaga Pottery. I do have a whole historical thing on Syracuse China. As I said, in 1841 was the W.H. Farrar Company. They made the Protestant jugs. In 1858, the plant was moved to the Fayette plant. And then it was called Empire Pottery Company. In 1871, Onondaga Pottery Company took over. In 1880, Onondaga Pottery built a new plant. 1891, Syracuse China was manufactured. 1921, Court Street established this plant. In 1966, Onondaga Pottery Company changed the name to Syracuse China Corporation. In 1978 through 89, Syracuse China Corporation merged with Canadian Pacific Investments, Ltd., as their own subsidiary. In 1989 through 1995, Foxcraft owned it. In 1995, Libby owned it, and then until 2009, the production ended. So it's quite a bit of history, on Syracuse China. Okay, so my next piece was the white English ironstone tureen. And if you look at the bottom of it, there is a British hallmark, and there's a way to identify. There's books out there that identify these marks. This tells me this location was in Savoy, England. It had a rope twist and twig finial. The year mark was 1875. January it was made, and on the 5th day of January, it was parcel mark 5, type 4, which was ceramics. Type 1 was metal, type 2 wood, type 3 glass, just by all the information on the hallmark on the piece. The next item is a China Devaul, and the maker is unknown. I couldn't find any identifying marks on her. She's made in Germany. You can identify the age by the hairstyle. She was from the 1860s, 1870s. She has a center hair part called a flat top and a high brow, and there's a mold mark number 4 on the back of her legs. She had yellow molten hair, painted eyes, closed mouth, cloth body, and this is the way I bought her with these clothes this way. I don't know how original they are, but I thought they just looked really sweet on her. And she had molded boots. Okay, the next item was a American silver plate tea strainer. On the back of it, it says EPNS, which means electroplate silver on nickel base. AL, and it also means it is triple plate. It's been dipped 3 times in silver. And this pattern for this particular piece is called perfection. The next item I have is a tin wind-up dog made in Japan by Mukuni from 1930 through 1950s. It's just a detailed lithium tin, and it does work when you wind it up here with the feet. Does anybody have an idea what this is? Some people tell me it's a husband beater. Okay, this is an early metal chain hot scrubber. It's a mesh of interlocking rings. It was called and sold as sensible hot chain, used to scrub pots and pans. I call this pre-Brillo pans. Okay, the next item I have is a Phoenix bird cup and saucer made by the Japanese potteries in the 1900s. These early pieces were unmarked. This is a Phoenix bird. It is very translucent china. And it's the Japanese bird of paradise. You can see it's very light and rich. Again, I mentioned earlier, this was the Canastota cut glass relish dish made by Deal Cut Glass Company in Canastota, New York from 1903 to 1933. This pattern is called the Diamond Poinsettia, design number 205, and the patent date of this was 1913. This was the most expensive pattern they made. They did make also other patterns, but this is the one that's very highly collectible, the butterfly and the diamond poinsettia. If you see it anywhere at a good price, highly recommend you buy it. Because right now there's some pieces bringing $500, $600, $700, even $1,000. There was an auction a year ago. A collector sold a lot of his diamond poinsettia glass, and collectors came from all over the country to buy it. Very sought after piece of glass. And unfortunately, a few pieces on this one has a few dings on it, which destroys the value some, but not that much. Even collectors are buying pieces with a few dings on them. And the last piece here, I have a foreign piece of hourglass. It's made by Lemaire Fabry of Paris in 1900, with mother and pearl in brass. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Dana,
Yes.
for example, what would the wooden toy or tin toy,
Yes.
the duck, what would that be in price and maybe?
This is on like maybe a $15 to $20 item.
And what about the white turret?
This piece here, unfortunately, there's a little chunk, you know, down here. And if this wasn't really good shape, this would be about maybe $40, $45 if I didn't have the little chigger here on this.
And Syracuse pottery or the Onondaga pottery piece?
This piece, no, I value between $50 and $60. Again, you know, it's a lot of mass produced, so to speak. Okay, and the Canastota piece here, this is more like a $70, $80 piece. Okay, and the eyeglasses, these prices go up and down. At one time, they used to be $40, $50, but right now you probably get them for like a $20 or $30 bill. Price, the antique market has crashed just like the regular stock market. Find an example, like at home I have a marble top, chisel top, white marble stand, beautiful Victorian pieces. In the 1980s, this table was worth like $1,200. Right now in the current market, I'd be lucky if I get a $300 bill for it. Prices have really come down. I was at an auction yesterday. There was beautiful pieces of dressers and cherry wood furniture, and $200 for a big 2/4 dresser. You know, years ago you used to get $700, $800 for that. It's so sad because the new younger generation, they want IKEA and Party Barn, and they just want a little decorative accent. And now so they're not decorating with antiques like a lot of us in our generation have. It's so sad. I don't know if the market's ever going to come around. You know, I have no idea.
All right, now, for example, there's not much of a market for sterling silver.
The only thing is silver, just because the price of gold and silver, so many things are getting melted down now, so to speak. Again, it's...
But if you sold it at an auction, you're not going to, I mean, there's not young people buying sterling silver. You say,
No, the
"Boy, I
scrap
want-"
metal dealers are buying it for scrap
Yes, for the metal.
Yeah.
Can't even give it to my kids.
Well, I remember in the 80s when the Hunt brothers controlled the market, silver was up to $50 an ounce. I mean, ladies were selling their sterling tea sets like for 20 grand. It's a tough say, I got 20 grand sitting here that I'm not going to scrap it. And it's so sad, it was in the 80s when it really started, a lot of the early Victorian pieces of silver got melted down. It was lost. I know we had an Apostle spoon that was really, really early, and we sold it to a New York dealer because we just didn't want to scrap it back then. There was a lot of pieces we saved, we sold them to collectors, so to speak, and my husband and I did in the 80s because we came across so much stuff and people wanted to scrap it. You know, we'd buy it from them and sell it to a collector so it wouldn't get scrapped, so to speak. So I feel good that we saved a lot of pieces back then, but people are saying, I'll take the dollar over the, you know, antique values. It was really sad. A lot of it was lost in the 80s, and now again, that's been passed down to generations. They're doing the same thing, but take that dollar over the antique value of the piece, which is really sad. The same thing, gold. Look at the price of gold in the, was it the 60s, 70s? Gold was like $20, $30 an ounce. Now it's up over $1,500, and to sell for the dollar, which is sad. Yes.
I was told one time that people don't want silver in
The
a lot
young
of the
people
early
don't.
pottery because it doesn't go in the dishwasher.
Yes, they do not want china
And
because
so
the
we have
gold
to
part of the china comes off in the dishwasher. They don't want to bother with silver because they don't want to polish it, so to speak.
I had a question though about the cut glass. What do they start with? Is it a molded piece or a blown piece? No. Or
I'm not really sure how cut glass is made. I believe it's through a mold, and then they have certain stamp insert. It's not really blown, because a blown glass piece would have a ponto
Right.
at the bottom of it. So I think the glass was put in different mold patterns, and I say this particular pattern, Diamond Point said it, that it was just made that way. Just glass at high temperature was pressed into a certain form. Where a blown piece of glass, you will see a ponto at the bottom of it, and it's kind of rough at the bottom.
So what's the difference between a press and a cut?
The
press is in the press
And a cut glass, these edges are really sharp.
I know that,
And
but
if you-
the process.
Yeah, that I really don't know.
The
Google
brilliant
it. Google
crystal.
information, Google it.
Right here. The brilliant crystal is cut by carving wheels.
Right.
Okay. I just learned something, thank you, yeah. But there is a just difference. So it's regular grinding wheels. It's all like hand ground, am I correct? Well, I have to do my homework. It says, so it's just like different kinds of hand ground on grinding wheels. Okay. Thank you for the info.
So at an auction house, you know, you're not finding at this juncture a lot of people coming to buy antiques?
It's this age group here, no. This buying. When I go, I do not see a lot of young people. And it's kind of sad in a way because I don't see anybody coming up replacing us antique dealers, so to speak. That, you know, they're out there doing the shows and buying stuff or liquidating things for families. You know, another 30, 40 years, who's going to replace us? There's nobody young in the antique market. You know, who knows where the stuff is going to go or it's going to end up in a landfill somewhere. I mean, I can see that coming down the road. It's kind of scary. Like, when I first started, I learned from the old timers, and lots of us hands-on learning. You just learn by touching, feeling, looking at it. And they taught me a lot, and now I have no one else to teach, so to say. My daughter could care less, you know, about that. To her, she was all junk, you know. And I know when I'm 6 feet under, she's going to send it on auction and she won't get the thing.
Like a tiger wood dresser or a cherry piece of it, they don't even...
Oh, that beautiful tiger maple, it's gorgeous wood, but they don't even care about it, which is sad. I have found no interest in the younger market, even doing all the shows that I've done, even going to auctions. You know,
it's not selling.
It's just not selling to young people.
They feel they can't afford it, so I tell the younger generation, look at the mahogany period, and a lot of them are buying that mahogany furniture that our parents had, you know?
And it's true, a lot of younger kids, they're buying what, like their parents had, it was like the 50s, 60s, type of thing, as opposed to the earlier antiques. It's what they're buying is what their memories they grew up with. Was a lot of the 50s and 60s stuff that's out there, so to speak. So it's almost like a generational, type thing. But then if you could convince them, you're better off buying solid wood and not cardboard and particle board when you go to Target and Walmart and all those places. You know, the only good furniture buys is really hardened and stickly, and not everybody can afford that. But yeah, you can afford a good solid piece of, so I said yesterday at the auction was a 2 or 4 beautiful big cherry dresser. It only brought like $250. It was gorgeous, absolutely solid wood cherry. It's like, wow. Any other questions? Yes.
If you have a Duncan Pfeiffer Chippendale chair, is it labeled or is that name brand not branded into the bottom?
They copied that style, but you'd have to look at the construction of the furniture to know if it was all handmade and pegged together as opposed to machine produced, because there's a lot of copies.
So it's not labeled or it's not labeled Duncan Pfeiffer into the wood or anything, so you'd know it was really?
No, you have to go by the style and how it was made. Most of it we come across is all machine made. You know, the real expensive pieces are handmade. You're talking thousands of dollars. Again, it's wood construction. You know, how it's pegged together, that type of thing. Because everything back then was pegged together, as opposed to glued and screwed together, so to speak. But if you have a really good period piece of furniture, I highly recommend either going to Skinner's in Boston or Sotheby's in New York. You always send them a photo and then they can always bring it down there and they can document it. Or if you have a good family piece that's been passed on from generation to generation. Because a lot of this furniture was made in the 1700s. It was all handmade. Until machines started making things in the 1830s when everything got mass produced. Most of these pieces you find are pretty much in museums or families that have been passed down. Any other questions? Well, I thank everyone for coming. Hope you learned something today.
Oh, yeah.